How to improve your communication. Communication is a crucial aspect of life and destiny. This is something you engage in almost every single day. It is a part of your life. You might as well get good at it. In fact, not until recently I realized the significance of a high level of communication skill. Unconsciously, I've been going about my day, not taking cognizance of what I've been articulate and the shit tons of opportunities that would have been missed. For instance, you go on a date, you're not anxious, you're not nervous, you show up, you're charismatic, you're interesting, you're funny. You leave that date bagging the girl. To you, it's normal. You walk into an interview and the night before, you did little to no research because you're confident. You're, in fact, the things people would study naturally comes as common sense to you. You are articulate. You understand how the game is played. You understand body posture. You understand all of these things that would have otherwise been learned. So communication improves your daily life. Improvement on your daily life leads to opportunity eventually. The things you would hear today, as usual, are not regular information on the internet distilled with my personal life experience, a little tweak, a little changing of concepts, a little changing of words to make it different. That's not what you're going to hear. In fact, as a matter of fact, all my videos are based on life experiences. They are based on things that have worked for me. I don't watch any other person's video to draw inspiration or to glean from their knowledge. I do not study, I do not research in order to create this content. And why I do not do it? Is it partly, or is the reason partly because I'm a very intelligent, charismatic, photographic memory individual? Is that the case? Yes. But I feel creating videos based off of other people's content, I feel it to be ingenious because you're drawing from what makes sense logically. You've not experienced that principle and you're teaching it to people. So I feel safe doing things like that. A 40-year-old man recently walked up to me. He said, I love the way you communicate. It's tough. In fact, your communication accounts for a huge percentile of the success, especially in leadership, especially in this business. I would love to learn. What can I practice on? You see, my friend, that's where you're wrong because practice doesn't make perfect. If practice was the answer, you've been speaking for 40 years. That's quarter of my age, or my age is quarter of yours. You're significantly way older than me. Why am I better? You've been practicing longer than I have. So why am I still better? Because practice without feedback is just a waste of time. If I create one of these videos and I do not watch it back, see how I can improve, see the different times where I lost the audience, see if I could have substituted words, is there an example I would have given to illustrate my point further? What could I have done better? Most people create podcasts, most people create videos, they don't watch it back. In fact, the only reason they watch it back is to entertain themselves, not for feedback, not for growth, purely for entertainment. And they wonder why I'm outperforming. To understand, practice doesn't make perfect. Feedback is what makes perfect. Now, let me give you tips on what you can practice upon and get feedback, because that's the question majority are already asking. The first thing you can do is to check our previous video. There's a video I did on communication. I can't recall its name. I believe how to improve your communication. Check that out. It will help you to improve your communication. That's the first thing. The second is to find a speaker you admire. Take a 2 minute clip of what he says. Memorize that script, recite it, record yourself, and monitor the difference. It's in the monitoring process when you can literally see the problem, the solution jumps out as opposed to psychologically analyzing the problem. That's why gurus and personal development coach always encourage writing your goals, always encourages writing the problem, because writing the problem, once you can visually confront that problem, the solution is a byproduct. Reversing and extrapolating this concept to our discourse, once you can see the difference between you or communication and this guy communication, the solution jumps out. Perhaps when you communicate, you're like this. Perhaps there are no hand gestures, there are no facial expressions when you speak. So all of those cues, the discrepancy between you and that of your idol becomes evident. Another thing you can do, if you watch my previous video, I said I touched on this subject, but I would like to elaborate. Journal. You can journal. Once you journal, it again it ties back to our visual philosophy. You can literally see the gaps in your communication. And communication is layered in different cadres. For instance, you can communicate effectively but not sound like a professional. There's amateur level of communication, which is where you are. There's regular level of communication. There's professional level of communication. And there's a godlike level of communication. So the average individual should oscillate between the regular and the professional. I'll give you an example. The US have only two genders. Conversely, the US recognizes only two genders. Which one sounds more professional? Exactly. Regular, professional. So for you to try and jump from amateur to professional, you only crash back in regret, despondent, and ready to throw out anything called communication. So in order to rid yourself of unnecessary discouragement, aim for regular, then professional, because the shoulders that should act as giants doesn't exist. So first build the foundation before you scale. The other question majority will ask is, what does godlike communication appear like? Well, godlike communication, you get to a level where you use metaphors to describe points. For instance, I can say something like, you want to sell, or for instance, say I'm trying to motivate you, and I go, look, stop laying on bed all day, stop being depressed, stop engaging yourself with unnecessary pleasures. The only thing you're doing is selling out pieces of your empires for scraps of pleasures. You see what I did there? I used metaphor to enrich my communication. So when you are sent that level of godlike communication, and you can gain the despondency at the peasant the vassals, the people beneath. But journaling is one thing. It visually helps you to see where you are communication wise. It also gives you the luxury to fine tune things. So for instance, if you introduce your sentence with so, because, those are conjunctions, but if you overuse them, you sound very unprofessional. You sound even worse than a regular communicator. I went to the junction and I now do this and I now went to school. Then I went home. I went and your communication, you sound like a 4 year old. You sound like a 6 year old. That's why people find it difficult to listen. The journaling helps visually position where you are communication wise. And the last but not the least, this final principle has given me powers unimaginable. In fact, this is one of the secrets to being a good communicator. Read, read, read. Because you can be the most intelligent, articulate communicator, but if you have no idea on the subject, you are going to stutter. So reading is like intercourse with superior minds, their spirit pouring into yours. Reading. Now, there are people who have gone through every single thing. There are people who have undergone painful experience and they are benevolent enough to reveal their scars, distill it in a material. As an act of that sacrifice, the humblest thing you can do is to consume that content. There is nothing new under the sun, said Solomon, touted one of the wisest men to ever walk the earth. So the best thing you can do is to take advantage of the wealth of knowledge. In fact, knowing on various subjects makes you more interesting as an individual. There is nobody you put in front of you. There's no subject which I don't have knowledge of. So that subject can be an entry point to discuss. If I'm sitting with Elon now, we talk about Mars, talk about rockets, although I'm more inclined towards the business and economic side of life. But I know a few things here and there about nuclear weapons, about bombs, and things of that nature. Things that might interest you. And you notice I'm outward as opposed to inward. Majority of people in their communication, does this person like me? They're already judging, they're trying as much as possible to dominate the conversation. So all of this betrays insecurity. A confident, secure individual doesn't need to speak much, doesn't need to prove his worth. If you read Bill Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it talks about letting the other person speak about himself, conforming to their ideals, letting them speak, speaking on subjects they're interested in. If you are able to rid yourself of your ego and get into everybody's head, you will be most like you will gain tons of friends if that's your goal. In an age where everybody wants the other person to conform to their ideals, if you can be that 1%, I'm not saying conform and smoke weed or goes against your values. No, don't take it that far. Speak on subjects that interest the other person. I walk into or I'm with a musician. I speak on the business side of music. I draw from the wealth of knowledge I have on business, combine it to music, and there's a conversation. Do not rid yourself of these boring conversations, of these interview questions. You are with a lady, and you sound like this. How was your day? Fine. Ability, yes. Tell me about this. The conversation is not flowing. You can feel the energy. It's boring. So one of the easiest ways to converse with someone, speak on subjects you're interested in, and you define. As always, my friend, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.